Okay, we'll just give it a minute or two. Hopefully everyone can hear me. We'll give it 1 minute and we'll start going forward. Okay, I think it's about time. Let's go ahead. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to Hack That Python. Today we'll be going over the multiple areas that Python can deliver you into, the different type of pathways it can lead you into, and obviously from that we want to expand in terms of the basics of Python. So of course, Python can go into many things, such as AI, cybersecurity, data analytics, etc. You name it, and we'll go over all of that today. So without ado, I will go forward with introductions. So as I was saying, we are Hack That Stack. So welcome everyone. I'm thrilled to have you all here today for this webinar. Whether you're new to tech or looking to sharpen your skills, we're just curious about the industry itself. You're in the right place. And today we're going to dive into Python. Also introduce you to some bigger things as we go along. At Hack That Stack, we're more than just a lean performing platform. We're a community driven by innovation and designed to bridge the gaps between aspiring professionals and real world industries that are need. We specialize in hands-on learning in areas like web development, AI, cloud computing, cybersecurity, you name it, going forward. And most importantly, we create inclusive spaces for growth, networking, and career advancements. Our mission is to empower people with skills, knowledge, and opportunities to succeed in tech going forward. Whether you're an entrepreneur wanting to build your own online store for the first time, or trying to career switch, looking to AI, or exploring new fields like cybersecurity, we provide resources and support to help you grow. No fluff, no waste of time, just practical career-ready skills. Why this matters? Well, in the tech industry is evolving very fast. As you all know, there's big hype around AI right now, and automation, I mean, the news already about was it DeepSeek and OpenAI, and the battle, the race for AI is quite exhilarating right now. So again, right now is the best time to be in technology and to expand that going forward. What does the future careers look like going forward? Well, we're expanding our courses to offer industry demand and feedback, and your feedback going forward. So here's pretty much an overview in terms of the areas what we'll be leading into after this Python session. So once you have a rough understanding of the basics of Python and understand of the different pathways, we'll be looking into expanding these Python sessions into AI machine learning, where you can learn on how to build and deploy AI-powered apps and agents going forward, using Hugging Face going forward, or PyTorch. Cybersecurity foundations to help you protect yourself and your business from cyber attacks and threats, and obviously in terms of the different leading industries in there. Cloud and DevOps, so to master different areas within MAG, which was Microsoft, AWS, and Amazon, and Google, which is Azure, AWS, and GCP, and other areas within those arenas. And then other special cases such as Salesforce, to help build scalable businesses from scratch using CRM and the power of what is going in today. So that's just a rough overview in terms of what those type of areas we'll be looking into further from Python and what the opportunities you can do using Python. So just to begin, whether, like, again, as to reiterate, whether you're here to learn, network, or launch a new career, you are now part of the Hack That Stack community. And continue to stay connected, keep learning with us going forward, and more importantly, take action. Without further ado, let me pass it over to Tech432.
Amazing, thanks T. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Tech432. So my name is Lutonde, first and foremost, and I'm the founder of Tech432. Tech432 is a non-profit social enterprise committed to empowering young people from underrepresented talent. And it's designed to help young talent get into and break into their desired careers. We believe that talent is everywhere, but sometimes the opportunities aren't there. So we create pathways for success through things like mentorship, skills development, and industry connections. Our mission is to directly challenge the barriers that prevent Black and underrepresented groups from accessing career opportunities, especially within tech. We do engaging workshops, hands-on training, community initiatives to help equip young people with the confidence, skills, and knowledge so that they can thrive in their desired careers. And since our founding, we've so far been able to impact over 250 young people. We've collaborated with a number of organisations such as Hack That Stack, Closing Black Females, Motives, Samsara, and others. And our work includes mentorship programs, educational courses such as this, and community projects. So we do things that help the community, help support young people, even providing things like free haircuts for young boys, just to create more support systems and empower the younger generation. And I just want to say that with Tech 432, it's more than just a career initiative. It's a movement for social mobility, ensuring that everyone, irrespective of their background, has a chance to fulfill their potential. It's very much in our name as well. You're probably thinking, why the name Tech 432? Unfortunately, the stats are quite dire. It shows that Black men are 4 times more likely to face unemployment in the UK. As well as that, for Black graduates, it's 3 times harder to secure graduate opportunities, and Black women only make up 2% of the tech workforce. So the 432 is in the name, and what we're directly trying to do is challenge those stats and make better opportunities for the next generation. So yeah, I would say take in or soak in as much as you can today. It's very, very important for us to just share these skills to help upskill you guys as talent and ensure that your opportunities in the future, that you're able to pursue these opportunities in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Lutunde. Let me just come back. Okay, so let's expand within Python itself. Now, why Python? Well, Python is a programming language, assuming everyone understands. Well, if you've never heard of it, we'll expand a bit more into it. But it's utilized for coding and practices around different industries. Now, what can we use Python for? Well, there's a large, vast pathways within that. You could use it for web development, for example, creating web frameworks like Django and Flask, which we'll expand in further courses if it's over if that's too many jargon words. But again, these will allow you to help you develop web servers or web development within Python. Or you got data science, such as allowing you to analyze data. This would allow you to obviously utilize libraries such as Pandas, NumPy, sorry, Seaborn, etc. And these are utilized for Python, well, essentially for large data sets, for example, and making predictions and visualization. Other areas you could go into would be artificial intelligence, which is obviously one of the biggest things on trend right now. Creating AI-driven chatbots, recommendation systems, prediction analytics, etc. You name it, or maybe just make your own open AI in your ChatGPT kind of thing. Automation as well, scripting. So Python is utilized to automate repetitive tasks, saving time and improving efficiency. So these cool things, key tools would be revolving around things like Selenium, Beautiful Soup, PyAuto, etc. So these are things that automate Excel reports and emails in businesses. Scraping job listings from websites using Python scripts. The list goes on. Let me expand further though, in terms of, let me double check. Yeah. Cool. And let me expand a bit further in terms of those opportunities. So looking at the opportunities right now, there's too many to go over. So I'm just going to list a few. So one of the major areas you could do is cybersecurity. So obviously, that is a career path where Python helps automate vulnerability scans and threats and detection. So these roles would revolve around security analytics, ethical hacking, and presentation testers going forward. Within these areas, you can expand into multiple areas like real-world use cases, where you can automate the security testing for network vulnerabilities, like I said, or analyzing malware behavior for cyber security firms. Other areas would be in cloud computing, for example. Now, cloud computing is very well renowned, managing cloud infrastructure and automating deployments. It's allowing you to analyze and perform using Python itself. So you could become a cloud engineer or a DevOps specialist going forward. Now, there's multiple areas that you can expand in using cloud engineering, where you can obviously manage your CI/CD pipelines for faster software releases. You can automate the infrastructure across the board, across MAG, which would be, Azure, AWS, and Google GCP, and deploying scalable applications using serverless architecture, which we will all expand on these topics later on in future courses. Other areas would be artificial intelligence. Now, this is a key area of interest. You can also build machine learning models, natural language processing systems, and AI-powered applications. These roles would revolve around AI engineering or data scientists going forward. Now, these are very big areas, and obviously the landscape is quite endless at this moment in time. So in terms of real world use cases, AI assistants like Siri or Google Assistants use Python for natural language processing. Or you can think about things like Netflix or YouTube, where they use AI algorithms to recommend content, or even healthcare AI models predicting diseases and medical scans going forward. Again, the possibilities within AI are endless right now, and definitely will be recovered going forward. And then you've got data analytics, which is very useful, which is for large data sets to identify trends, making predictions, and driving business decision. So these roles revolve around data analytics, analysts, business intelligence, and product analysts and market analysts. Now, just to go over a bit more, obviously the common areas of Python would be from web development. So these areas are built for to build dynamic and responsive websites using front end and back end technologies. So you can become a full stack developer, you can be a front end developer, back end, etc. You name it, the world is your oyster. Now, where you could go into these areas would be into maybe building websites for e-commerce platforms like Shopify or eBay, and utilizing Python-based frameworks, or maybe using social media platforms like Instagram to run your Django applications, or maybe you would like to build something in news or content-based subjects within a website, and build something using Flask. Now, again, the endless libraries or services available in that area are endless, but we'll be able to cover you more in that in other sessions. And again, data science we went over, and data engineering. So data engineering, mainly for pipelines and optimization, for data storage and integrate data systems. The roles involved in this is data engineering, ETL developer, big data engineering, cloud engineering. These areas are very big, and obviously right now is very trending based on big things happening in America, like for example, Meta creating new data centers, going in Texas, provisioning the idea for that. So again, it's going to be a massive boom in those areas going forward when it comes to data, and how that's going to be contained and regulated going forward. Let me go to the next one. So what do we expect from these big areas? Now, the job growth within Python and Python-related roles are projected to grow significantly in the UK. The tech industries expand the use of AI and cloud infrastructure. And right now is the average salaries across the UK right now. Now, as you can see, the mark for AI is the highest in terms of the average. And again, I think the lowest was web developer, but even then you're still making from 35,000 to 75,000 roughly in a given annum. And then AI is obviously 60 to 100 K going forward. So you can see the vast opportunities and the lucrative areas that you can dive into while building your expertise within Python in the different areas. So it's not just one area you can specify in. You don't have to just be a developer in that sense. Like I said, you can go into AI. You could even go to business intelligence in a sense, be more driven within visualization, looking into cybersecurity. Maybe you don't want to do the cybersecurity area of things where you have to do encryption. Maybe you want to just understand the processes in terms of how you can restrict user access in terms of face-to-face or physical interaction with devices. Again, there's multiple areas that it can cover, but again, we're just going to utilize Python as a base so everyone can evolve and divulge into those areas. Okay, now I've just given you pretty much a high level in terms of why use Python, what areas you can use Python in, and obviously what opportunities are on demand right now in terms of being lucrative and obviously beneficial for yourself going forward based on demand. But what is Python? Python is a high-level interpreted programming language known for its simplicity and versatility. Developed by Guido van Rossum in 1991. This is widely used for various applications like web development, data analysis, artificial intelligence, and etc. All the things I covered before. It's a clear syntax and readable, and makes it a very beginner friendly environment. So it's very ideal for anyone that's starting coding or has already looked into coding or wants to pick up a new language or just pivot, etc. Is a very good base starting point to go through. Why use it? Well, I mean, I'm not sure if you can see the diagram properly in that sense, but currently 51% of our development is done in Python. So the demand is quite high in terms of developers in the community itself, just after JavaScript. So again, it's going to be, the community is going to be very vast and very active, and it allows you to resolve issues very quickly when there's wherever you get stuck. Is ease of learning. Python uses plain English syntax, reducing the learning curve. So if you ever used anything like Rust or or Java in a sense, you will definitely understand and be very grateful for that ease of learning. It's versatile applications from obviously from building websites and AI-powered solutions and rich and ecosystem. Let me just go to the next one. So, without further ado, we're here to learn the basics of Python and understand how that goes forward. So we're just going to go through, I've put together, well, some essential parts of coding, which I believe are required for you to be your best self while developing your understanding around coding. And we're going to do that around using Python. So let's jump into that. So the first area going forward we're going to look into is variables. Now, again, this is all high level, and we're going to do a little project at the end just to well, build on our understanding. And of course, I will share this on screen. You can walk with me while I code on screen. So what we're going to do is just go over the basics, and then we're going to build a little project at the end. So variables, again. So I'm just going to go quickly over this for 2 minutes. What are variables? Variables are like containers going forward. Now, within these containers, they store data. And for a program to use this, well, mainly essentially is for once you've stored, say you have a box, you put an item in the box, and now you label it. I don't know, say you've put, I don't know, a pair of Jordans in the box. Now you label the box Jordans. Now, forever wherever that box goes, we will now identify that box to have Jordans inside. So again, is just a way to store and reuse data without repetition. Now, why is it important? The reuse of data without repetition, as I said, is very important. So obviously it makes it quick and seamless. And then obviously we want to update the values in the code whenever we need. So again, if you want to change the Jordans to Nike, something else, or maybe Adidas, we can do so at will. And then obviously to perform calculations on other operations. So again, on the screen, you can see the different types that can be stored. So in Python, you can store things like numbers, which is any dictionary format going forward. And then you can store text, anything with a quotation mark around wording would be classified as text. And you got lists, which we'll go in more detail later going forward. So real world examples for that as well would be, if you can see on screen, if I was going to track a customer purchase, if I have a container, well, a variable, and define it as product price, then I'll define it as a number. So we've got 19.99, and then we've got a product quantity of 2. So now if I want the total cost, for example, for that for those products I'm buying, I would then do a calculation, but I would do product price times, which is that star sign, by quantity, which will give me the results for that, which is very easy and simple to use. Let me expand now into the next area. So while variables are very useful, we still need to understand the key areas of Booleans. Now, Booleans are very important. Why? Because they provide a way, our data types in Python that represent 2 values, true or false. So within this, while utilizing the true or false statements, it gives us a good sense of purpose when making, equivalences to things, or providing us a quick outcome in terms of a result of a function running, for example. So we use this to make decisions in programming, utilized within control logic, in conditions, if statements, and loops. Now, we're not going to go over if statements in this session today, but we'll expand a bit further around other things such as loops. But again, we'll have other tutorials which will be mainly within the web development service, web development, course that we'll be pushing forward later on. So again, please stay tuned for that information while we go forward around this. But again, as you can see, there's control statements which would have probably like an if or else statement, but right now we're just going to keep it as simple as possible. So if you see on the screen, we have an x, which is equal to 10, and then we have y, which is equal to 5. Now, again, we've already gone over what variables are, and we understand that we're obviously assigning the number to the variable, which is why you got the equal sign. So now you have x and y. What can we do with this? Well, there's many things we can do. We can, obviously, as you can see on screen, we can check if x is greater than y. Now, again, to do the results for that, we would then need to expand how that would be. So that would be equivalent to true going forward. So if you can see, if I ran that statement and I printed it within a console, which we'll show, I'll expand on that going forward, we will see the results for that. So if I now did the opposite, it would be returned as false, which again, we would expand on that in different ways. So there's many ways you can obviously use Booleans. It's just, like I said, to give you a yes or no, or true or false, however you want to perceive it. It's just a very good way for controlling the logic of your code. So say, for example, if I did a purchase and I said, how much would it take for, I don't know, was the delivery successful? If there's a confirmation and it sends back true, then you know it's successful going forward. Let me just go to the next one now. So now we're just going to expand on strings. So strings, what are strings? A string is a sequence of characters enclosed in a single quotation or a double quotation or a triple quotation. Now these quotes have different meanings, but it can be utilized differently. So again, strings can contain letters, numbers, symbols, and spaces. So it has no, a string has no, how can I say, limitation in that sense within those categories that were being presented, those types. So the common uses for strings are storing like names or messages. So say, for example, you sign up to Deliveroo going forward, and you want to now see your name on the screen, I don't know, while you're going through your app. That name, your name has now been stored as a variable, as a string, for example. And then you can see your name across the app while going through your deliveries or purchases. So also other common uses would be interacting with the users or systems, user or other systems. So for example, you have name Python, and then you have greetings, and you got multi-line. So these are different ways you can define a string in Python. The common string operators within Python allow you to manipulate, I guess, in a way, the string itself. So say, for example, you have a full name. So like I said, when you log into a system like Deliveroo, you have to put, or sign up for the first time, you have to put your first name and your last name. Now, while you've entered that into the input boxes, you'll then have to now either combine them together. So that will be concatenation. So this will allow you to then append, which is here, John, or concatenate, sorry, John with a space and then with your last name, so John Doe. There's other things like repetition, which you can do a string, and you can put a time symbol, which is the star, with a number, and then it will just replicate that, saying hi, hi, hi 3 times. Accessing characters as well. So you can, within the word you've defined in a variable, you can actually find the positioning of the word. So for example, you can get position 0, which would be P going forward. This will be very useful in different tasks. And -1, if you want to be a bit fancy, which basically means it goes to the end of the array of characters, which means it starts from here, which is N. But it's just being a bit fancy. And then you have things called slicing and parts of the string, which obviously allows you to take sections of that string. So if I want 0 to 3, I'll then go to the word Python, and then in the characters, I'll count 1, which is starting from 0. So it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3. So you'll have an output printed out saying PYTH. Single methods and uppercases. Very useful as well. So these are methods that help you execute tasks quicker. So say, for example, I put my first name going forward, and then I want to change all of the characters in that string to uppercase. I can do so by running this function, this method, sorry. And I can do another one doing split and replace. So for example, I can replace the text with something else, or I can split it into parts. So there's many things I can utilize using string methods, which basically makes my life easier. An example of this would be saying if I had a variable called text, defined a variable called text, and then within it, I would add the string I love Python. Then when I print it using upper, it will all be uppercase. Or if I now do text.replace and I replace love with like, it will then say, instead of I love Python, I like Python. Okay. So mathematical operators. Within mathematical operators, the basics, they have basic approaches, which is your operators for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So this is hopefully very simplistic in that sense, and it's just allowing you to add, subtract, multiply, or divide your numbers that you provide. So the special operators, which will be modular, which basically finds the remainder of things, and exponent, which is basically exponent, sorry, which allows you to do square root, basically the power, the power of subjects. And you got flooring, which is basically divide around and rounds down. So again, for an example to use this going forward would be if I assigned a to 10, a variable a to 10, and another variable b to 3, if I did a plus b, that would then give me a result of 13. And then if I did a modular b going forward, that would give me a result of 1. Is there any questions or so far? Anyone that would like to provide any feedback, please add it to the chat, and we'll definitely attend to you as we go along if there's anything that I may have gone a bit too fast on, because I definitely do have a tendency of running over things very fast. But again, how Python evaluates expressions. Now, the order of this is called PEMDAS. So we start with the parentheses, then we start with the exponents, then we go into multiplication and division, which is left to right. So as you can see here, you go left to right, and then you do add and subtraction. So if I do an example, print 5 plus 2 times 3, it will then do the parentheses first, so anything within the brackets, and then it will start with the next thing, exponents. We have no exponents at the moment in time, so that's fine. And then we've got multiplication and division. So we do have a multiplication, so we'll do within the parentheses 2 times 3, which is 6, and then it will do add and subtraction, which we have the 5. So then we'll do 6 plus 5, 5 plus 6, which would then give us 11. You've got a bit of time. Again, that would be expanded. If we now did that within combining operators, we could obviously enhance that logic and say x equals 5 and then y equals 2. And then if we wanted to check the results of two parentheses or combine operators together, we'll do parentheses of x plus y, which is 5 plus 2, which is 7. And then we do that times by, again, x plus y, x minus y. So x 5 minus 2, which is 3. So we'll just do 7 times 3, which would then be 21. Okay. Ooh. And then lastly, why mathematical operators matter. Now, given you're looking at a different career path, so data analytics going forward, we would have to perform calculations on data sets. Or if you're going to game development, you'll have to handle the scoring and physics. Finance, you have to calculate the costs and taxes and interest rates. And automation, such as things as automating repetitive numerical tasks. Now, there's so many things that you would need mathematical operators for, and definitely Python is very useful for that. So again, here's just another example quickly just going over how you'd calculate if you was in a real life example for e-commerce app. So if I now wanted the price and quantity and tax rate going forward, I can now create an equation for that and then print that total cost based on that going forward. So now we're just going to go over lists and loops. Now, this is a very fun subject. Within lists and loops, there's a collection of items stored in specific order. So items can be added or removed or modified. So again, in the wording list, think of a list as you're writing a list, as you can see here for the example. So I have a variable called fruits, and in that, I'm now defining a list, which is, within the square brackets. So whenever I define or state the square brackets, it means that it's going to be a list. And I can add in as many things as I want within that list. So if I have a checklist of for shopping, and I want to add apples, bananas, cherries. Now I want to print or show on screen the first position. Remember 0. Again, we'll go over that in more detail within the web development course. But again, if I now want to find apple going forward, I would then provide the value, the variable, which would be fruits. And then within our place a 0 with a square bracket, which will state within the list of fruits, I want the first item in that list, which is apple. Going forward, we have things called loops, because again, we have all these great ways of storing information, but how do we go through each one? How do I make it efficient so I can grab banana whenever I want or cherry when I want? So there's 2 ways for this. We can then add additional ways to repeat the action multiple times, which would then utilizing for loops and while loops. So for loops are iterators over a sequence like a list, and while loops repeat as long as the condition is true. Now I'll expand what that means. Using lists and loops together. So if I want to use a for loop, and as we just go over using fruits as our list of fruits, if I now do for the keyword, which is for, and then place the variable, which is fruits, which we have our list defined above, and I say in fruits, I'm sorry. So again, let me just go back. Within fruits, because we've defined fruits, which means obviously many in that sense, and we're going to get each individual fruit. So now I've stated the for in going forward, I can print all the fruits going forward. So as I said, it was an iterator. So we're going to go over every single item in that list. So that'll be apple, banana, cherry. So if I go for, say, okay, for every fruit that exists within the list of fruits above, print them out. And then it will just go forward and say, I like apples, I like banana, I like cherry. Again, we can expand on that going forward, and we can do a while loop, and we can do it on a condition base. So we put a count to 0, and we say while count is less than 3, make sure you print the count. So again, we'll iterate this going forward. So we'll keep going forward until this condition is not true anymore. So this while loop, as I said before, will always run while true, but it will exit when it's false. So again, if now every time we go loop, we say, okay, cool, count, print the count, which will be 0. Then we add a count, which is add equals to 1, which means just add 1 to my variable count, which now makes this 1. Then we go back to the while loop, we check the thing again, we print out 1, and it says, okay, add 1 to my count. So now you got 1 plus 1, which is 2. And it will keep going until it meets the condition of 3. So anything less than 3, after that, going forward, will then stop, and then it will stop the while loop. And then we have example cases for that, how we can expand on that. I mean, the importance of this is to efficiently handle data going forward. List and loops are pretty much the backbone of Python programming and enabling efficient automation and data processing. So this allows you to manage real-world applications and managing different examples, such as managing inventory, calculating totals, analyzing data sets, you name it. So another key concept within Python is dictionaries. So this is a very useful area to cover because dictionaries are used everywhere. Now, what are dictionaries? A dictionary is a collection of key and value pairs where keys are unique and each key maps to a value. Now, the features within this are, well, keys are for keys must be unique and immutable, meaning it can't change. Strings or numbers. Values can be of any data type, and dictionaries are dynamic. You can add, modify, and delete entries. So, if that went over your head, let me expand that in a more seamless manner. So, as you can see here, you have an object, well, a dictionary called student. So the dictionary means if anything's in a curly bracket, so you see one here at the top and you see one here at the bottom here, and it's assigned, meaning equals towards the variable, this is classified as a dictionary, where you then apply the key concepts such as keys and values. So the key will be the first point. If you see the structure, if you follow the pattern, which is name. And then the value would be what's assigned to that name, which has got a colon going forward, and then which would be Alice. So we're saying within our dictionary, so think of a dictionary, I guess, maybe in the book, that's where I like to think of it. And in this dictionary that I've created, this book, I've now written down name, and then within that name, that is going to equal Alice. And again, the next part within that, I've written down age, and her age is going to be 25. And her major, I've now defined her major within that dictionary and said, okay, her major is going to be computer science. So it's just pretty much given a list of records in a different format. And then when I now say print student with a bracket, square bracket, because you have to use a square bracket to state that you're going to get a position in that dictionary, you can now state name. So you're going to now say student. Within student, the dictionary student, which is defined here, find me the value of name. So then it's going to find the key, which is name, which is up here. And then within that key, which is associated with value, which is Alice. So when you print that going forward, it will then print Alice. Oops, let me just go about it. So common areas using this operations would be accessing the value as I just defined. So if I want to now if I just want to print the values, I'll then get the key name, which I've defined in that dictionary, and then say, okay, within my dictionary student, please find me the value of assigned to age. So again, you have that already, which would be 25. Then again, you can change and update the values at any given time. So say, for example, oh, I don't have a graduation year. What can I do? You can then define a new key within that dictionary, which will be graduation year, and assign it a new value, which will be 2025. Or you can update the age, which was already existing with no issues, and say, okay, within students, I want to update that her age, Alice's age, from 25 to 26. Again, there's multiple ways we can go forward on that. And again, you can delete the student, delete items within the dictionary, such as if it exists. So age, say for example, I don't want age anymore, I can delete that and say just put a DEL keyword at the front of that going forward, and it will delete it. And you can iterate as well. So why are dictionaries important? Well, many reasons. Dictionaries are powerful tools for organizing, managing, and retrieving data efficiently in Python programming. Now, it efficiently looks up data. So again, if I open a book and I want to find certain information, I can quickly search for that information using keys going forward. And then if I want to organize data storage, I can group related information together. So say, for example, I want multiple students. So it's not just Alice I want now. I want John, Paul, Sarah, etc. going forward with all that information. I can define a dictionary and I can put the same structure going forward and utilize it, and I can retrieve that at any given time. And then obviously real world examples for using this would be around obviously utilizing around say an e-commerce system, product inventory, those type of things. So if you had like stock levels going forward and you had like t-shirt, jeans, sneakers, hats, for example, we could then just quickly create a solution, some logic that will basically allow us to retrieve certain information of what's been sold going forward. So quick thing around functions. Functions are very useful are very useful in Python and are used everywhere. So a function is a block of reusable code that performs a specific task. Now, what does that mean? So when I mean a block of code, it is pretty much all the logic that we did before. So say, for example, we did equation of times in the product. So we had before like the Jordans. So we had the price of the product and then we had the quantity of the product. If we times that together, then we would get the results of what that product, the outcome of that product would be. But now, say for instance, we have to do that 20 times or every time a transaction comes through. That'll be very mundane task or a very long task to rewrite that code every single time. So to make it more usable and functional, reusable and functional, we can use functions to run that code. So again, key definitions is once defined, using multiple times, you can accept inputs and arguments to return outputs and make programs and organize well, make programs more organized and readable. So if you see this example here, we have basic syntax. So we have the def keyword. So this is a keyword you add in, and then you write whatever method function you want to call it. So say we would just call it function name for now. And then within that, we would then add a parameter. So this is pretty much values that would allow the code block to operate and produce the outcome that's needed. So within this code block here, we would write our logic. So say, like I said, like Jordans, the amount of Jordans times by how many we're buying, the price of Jordans, sorry, times how much we were buying, we'll add it there. And then we'll just have a return keyword, which would then say output. So that'll be the output of that price. So for example, if we then create a function called greet, and we want to pass in names, anyone's name into it, just one name going forward, we would then pass, we could do a return the value of a print function, which would then say hello, the name. So when you do this going forward, if you see below at the bottom, you got print. So we're going to print the function, which is greet, which we defined above. So once we define that, we can print it and pass in a value of Alice. And what we'll return is that it will then say hello name, which is Alice. So hello Alice going forward. So the benefits of functions is that, again, it's reusable code, it avoids repetition in multiple places. Again, if I wanted to do a square root of a number every single time, again, I don't want to do that, write that code 20 times. I just want to write it once and reuse it where needed. So logically, if I now define a function, say in square, pass in the number, I can then reuse and do the power of 2 every single time. Again, we can simplify complexity. So breaking down large problems into smaller areas or tasks, we can then say, if I want to calculate an area. So if I'm providing the function, which is, with length and width, we can do those calculations seamlessly again. And every single time you want to find the calculated area of something going forward, we would just pass those values into this function, and then the rest of the logic will just be performed. Again, there's many types of functions. These things are well, quite renowned in a sense. Massive. So we have built-in functions, which is defined for Python. For such as lens or max, that's an example of a built-in function that Python provides. So you can find the maximum length of something, or you can find the max of a number or attribute, or you can find the length of a given string. So we've got the word Python, and then it will count 5 going forward. Then we've got user-defined functions. So that was what we just went over right now. And we defined our own functions. So while defining our own functions, we were able to create different logic and obviously provide different results. And you've got this short one called lambda function. Now, this is going to be a bit more detailed in our web development course. And we actually use this within our data science one as well. This is pretty much to make it shorter and anonymous going forward. So it just helps you as a developer to shorten your code and make it more precise. So if there's a use case for it, definitely use it, because obviously within this, the function, we can write things in a shorter lines of code instead of now going through quite a lot. So again, you've got lambda that tells Python that we are creating a lambda function, and then the x is basically the input to the function itself. And then you've got x times you've got 2 stars with 2, which basically is just squaring the number going forward. So it just calculates the whole input here. But we, again, expand on that a bit more later. And finally, we're going to go through error checking. So error checking, very useful. Speed through this. This is pretty much just areas where we're just going to syntax error, just cover areas such as ensuring the program can handle unexpected issues without crashing. So anytime there's an issue, say for example, you forget a parenthesis going forward, we can print hello and it will give you a syntax error on screen. Or if you now divide 10 by 0, it will give you a runtime exception going forward. So very useful in those areas. So while we're coding, we may run into errors, and we're going to have to do things like try, catch statements, or sorry, in Python it's try, except. So again, you'll say, let me try a function, test it out. Test out some logic. So x equals 10 divided by 0. We know that's going to be an error, so we put an exception. So underneath, to handle any exception, and say, okay, 0 division error, which basically says any type of numerical exception will catch that and say cannot be divided by 0. Okay, so what we're going to do now is just quickly go over a mini project. This is pretty much just go over some of the things that we've gone over today. And just like I said, this is all high level, just to give everyone a brief introduction into Python. And again, we'll expand further within other courses or webinars in terms of how to make that more apparent. Let me share my screen, actually, it'll be easier. I'm just going to switch across. So if you are able to see the screen as well, if you want to follow along, please enter this link into Python. Into your browser, and then it will give you a online IDE to run Python code quickly. So what I will do, while my face is zoomed in, let me share my screen. And I will do my entire. There we go. Make it easier. Oh, this is the wrong one. Let me just move this. Give me a moment to hide that. Stop screen share. Okay, great. So to quickly just go over what we've gone through today, we're just going to create a mini project. Again, very seamless. It's just going over what we've done today. And yeah, so if I just quickly let's go over this little pro. So we're going to build a little e-commerce project where we're just going to build a little shopping cart and make it work, do some things. So the objective is to build a small shopping cart system in Python, showcasing the core concepts of variables, Booleans, dictionaries, etc. Everything we've gone over today, and a little sneak peek of different areas that we can cover in Python, which will be relatable to different industries as I go forward. So to make things a bit more quicker, I'm just going to showcase the code here so we can just go through it. So right now, what I'm going to do is just define the dictionary. I've defined it as, within my dictionary, I've defined a dictionary called products. And within my dictionary, I have items or keys, as we define it as, such as laptops, smartphones, and etc. going forward, with their pricing next to it, which is how much it will cost. Now I've added a discount code and the rate it would be. So I've got a code in terms of the naming for it, which is, you can classify as the enum in a sense, but again, we'll go over that more detail, what that means. And we'll just associate that with a rate of 10%. So now what we're going to do is now we've created the mapping for our products. We're going to now create a thing called a pure function. So we looked into what functions were in terms of what they are and how we can logically organize our code better. But now we're going to look into pure functions, which is, oh, let me just reset that. Pure functions where not only, well, it's a function where it only depends on its input and it doesn't change by any external values in that sense. So in other words, it's a way to give the same code or the same cart itself and code so it always gets the same results, which I'll show in a moment. Let me just add that in. So what I do is actually, let me even define it while I'm doing it. Let's do an option, and we're just going to do pure function. Again, we'll go more in detail what a pure function is, how to use it, the different use cases for it. But again, this is just high level and just giving you key understanding of what Python can do and when to use certain things. So we're just going to use a pure function for that. So it only depends on its input and nothing else. So how this works going forward is that I've started with defining the total. So I've created a variable called total, defined it as 0. And all I'm doing is for each item in our cart list, we look up the price and the products, in the products dictionary. So again, we've already defined the cart, which is basically here. And if you remember before, again, this is all high level, very quick. If you're new to programming, which again, we'll expand further in other tutorials and webinars. But again, we've got the defined cart here, which is our dictionary we're going to pass through. And then we're saying everything in our cart, we're just going to check the items. And from those items, we're just going to add it to total. In the discount code, if there's a discount code going forward, which again is conditional logic, the if statement here, we're just going to say if the discount code, which is up here, save 10 is equal to code, then we're going to apply a discount. And that's the logic for that, to add that 10% towards the total pricing. So the key point of pure functions are that it's easier to test and debugging and reuse. So again, when you're programming and you're getting into it, the next of it, it'll be very useful in those arenas. So while you're debugging, and it's critical in bigger applications. So from AI to cloud microservices, you will definitely be utilizing pure functions quite a lot. So again, now we've got our calculations for the total. Let us look into quickly how to collect the user's input. So I'm just going to showcase that on the screen. So right here, we're just going to add that. I'm going to say collect user input. So all this code does right now, which I'll quickly overview, is that as we did before with while loops, so we're just utilizing the key basics that we've gone through. While true, we're now saying that for the user to check, the available products itself. So we have a for loop, and within that for loop, we are basically just going through all of the items within products. And then we're saying within that product for the name and the price, which is, again, we've defined the name and the price here, which will be passed through going forward. We will then check each price and name, and we'll print that to the screen. And then for the choices, we'll create a choice variable, which basically takes in an input. And input just basically says, while you're on the terminal, for example, which we'll show in a moment, if you enter some characters on the keyboard, it will then take that and store that into choice, which will expand further. Again, this is another key concept, key part of Python as well, using input. So now all we're doing is some conditional logic after that point, and we're just saying, okay, cool. If we get choice, if the choice is, and we're lowering it, by the way, equals done. So that means if the answer, what you typed in into the keyboard, is equal to done, where we will lower using the string method going forward, then we'll stop this loop and we'll continue on with the rest of the code. Again, if it does, if there are products going forward and you want to append that, we will then append the choices added into the cart. So every time you add a new choice, which is going to be from here, the laptop, smartphones going forward, we will then add that to the cart, which is defined above here on line 23, which is an empty list. And we're just going to add that to our list, which we went over before. So we're just pretty much just going over all the different areas that we have used today. And then we're just going to do an error check, which is pretty much else statement, which is basically invalid if anything else is entered that's not captured or we've not covered going forward. So then we have to remember, how does this relate to real life examples? And you got to remember, if you're doing cybersecurity, for example, you're going to have to validate user inputs. These are essential and key tasks, always ensuring data is correct before processing. And then also we've got the fundamentals of lists and functions in Python by storing and ordering the collection of items. Now, what we're going to go through is just to wrap it all up in terms of the discounts and the final total. Now, if let me just do that. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so if you can still see my screen, we're just gonna wrap this up. We've gone over by 4 minutes, but so apologies for that time delay. But we'll be wrapping up soon. Discount and total. So what this part of the code does is that the user discount, we've defined a variable called user discount, and we're asking the discount code when the user calls a pure function, which we've defined as calculate total, which is above here, calculate total, which we'll add that in a moment. We're going to add this into a pure function. Actually, we can just do it now. And def, I would say calculate. Oops. Let me just add this here. Oops, sorry. Yep. I'll add that in a moment. So what we're going to do is go through this pure function we're going to define here. So we want to add this as a pure function later. And what we're going to do is calculate the total using the cart and user discount. Now, we've added conditionals around it. Again, these are things that we'll go over later on, but a conditional, again, is just to do conditional logic using the if statement, showing things. Providing logical ordering of what you want your program to do. So again, I've got the discount code, and I'm asking if the discount code, which I have to find above at the very top, which is up here, which is discount code. And then at the bottom, I'm asking it to validate that if it equals discount code, which I've passed through as final total here going forward, which is based on the user's input, then I can then give the discount code. And I say, okay, discount code has been applied successfully. So remember, input is just for you to input, add in, type in the keyboard and add in some values, and then it will get stored in user discount code. And then from that point, we'll just do a conditional logic to say, okay, does the code match the same? If it does, great, we've added a discount code. If it doesn't, then no discount code applied. Simple as that in that way. And then we're just going to introduce classes. So just to make everything a bit more seamless, let us redefine everything there. And if I can give, oops, I want to delete some of this just so it makes more sense at the end. This is just a thing called classes, which again is just a sneak peek into what Python can do. And again, we're just going to do, this is pretty much covers object-oriented programming, where we group data like cart items and methods going forward, and we pretty much provide our logic within one object. We have this thing called initialization, which again, we'll go in more detail later on, but it just automatically calls. It's called when you create the Python shop cart, and then we initialize that using self.cart items. So again, all of these things are just very useful to know. But I just want to put this in here just so that everyone has awareness of that. In terms of, okay, cool, we understand functions, we understand loops, we understand lists, but how do we manage these functions? How do we now group them? How do we make it more efficient? And those ways, good ways of practice is by using classes, as you can see here. So I've just got the keyword class, and I've created the class named it Py shop cart. And then within that, we can run the code inside there. Now, if I try this again, I'm just going to quickly go over another area, which is pandas. So just to go over different areas. But before that, this code is pretty much good for web development or backend development. So again, these are all key practices in web development, and you would go through things such as classes, or if in scalability is crucial for scalability, such as in the cloud, we would utilize that. And finally, just to top it all off, we're just going to just look at a bit of data science queries. So we'll just do data. And this area is just pretty much to cover how Pandas works to a small degree. So Pandas is used for data analytics, and it's very useful in data science. That a lot of people use it from day to day. But again, just to give you a rough overview, there's this thing called import. So again, we're going to do an error handling section. So we're just going to make sure that we're going to, as we went through the exceptions before, we're going to try this. And then within try, underneath it, we're just going to say, okay, let's test out this work. But if it doesn't work, I'm going to capture it using an exception at the bottom saying import error. So we're just going to import pandas, which means basically I'm going to get another library, which basically has all the information or functionality from pandas, which again, we'll go in more detail. And to not keep it too high, to not dive in too deep in that, we're just going to check the cart. And we're just going to do a condition, say, okay, if there's nothing in the cart, then we don't do anything. We're not analyzing anything. But if there is anything else, which is the else statement, we're just going to now use pandas here, which is PD. And we're just going to create a data frame in that. So within this, because as I said, pandas is for more data science libraries, and then you can create tables using this thing called data frame. So you'll create a table, think of Excel, I guess, in a way, and then it will run, change whatever your data is into a table. And then from that, we can manipulate that as we want, where we can group the rows by product and counting, well, how many times each product was chosen and summing up their total costs. So these are just like quick things that we can use. We can also display the data frame and the group summary, giving a quick analysis of what was purchased. So again, these are just useful data if you're going through like e-commerce websites, or you want to know how much users clicked on this or how many users bought this item, etc. You would then create like a data frame, as we can see on the screen, showcase or develop what kind of results you wanted from that. So again, we can group it based on the different cases or use cases that we need, and then we can produce the results going forward in real time. So again, this is useful for like AI, machine learning, recommendation systems, etc. These are things where collecting data makes it easier. We can clean the data, we can group the data, and we can summarize it. This is also useful in cloud environments where you might store the results and for central databases or feed into larger pipelines. So again, we've gone over pretty much all the core concepts, again, in terms of lists, strings, dictionaries, you name it, from what we've learned. And we just touched on a few other areas, such as pure functions and classes and pandas, which is very useful. So again, if you're doing core Python, we've gone over those fundamentals. We've gone over data science terms, such as, well, even simple data can be analyzed quickly with grouping and aggregation. So mirroring how businesses would create insights or how AI models would consume data. So using pandas and examples like pandas and data frames, which is this here. Cybersecurity as well, we've gone through simple scenarios such as validation, which is for user inputs, which is very critical. And real systems would also need to protect discount codes and payment data. So again, there's other things we could add to this code. And then the same way in the cloud, we could also deploy this and upload this to services. And additionally, with an AI, we can once all your data is in on what people buy, you can obviously, for example, you can create recommendation engines to detect engines to provide additional services for users and customers to, pick different items or the system in their journey, or even detect fraud going forward. So that was just a simple overview in terms of how that works. There are many other ways. I don't want to go too far because we've gone over time just by 15 minutes. But again, just to wrap this up, going forward, if I just go back, is there any questions that I would like to be answered? If not, we can continue going forward. Okay. Well, because we are over time, we will quickly wrap this up. Thank you for attending. Hopefully that gave you a good insight into Python, what different areas Python can lead you into, the different opportunities that are available, and hopefully what Hack That Stack and Tech 432 can provide while helping you on your journey. But yes, thank you for your time. And, oh, sorry, oh, I got a question. Oh, my bad. Can you go back to 13 as mine said invalidating? Let me go find. Was that 13, line 13? Let me just double check. Oh, why is my thing bugging out? Oops. Let me see. Let me go to line 13. Line 13. Okay, let me go back to chat. So line 13 is here, pure functions, calculate, total error. So we have no code for that, which is fine. And you have a syntax error. So maybe you have added have you added the same line? Is your brackets there? Have you got a comma, for example? So cart, then comma, space, code equals none. Let's see. Because I might have missed something actually while I'm doing it. No, that's fine. Pure, total, indented. Oh, as well, indentation is needed as well. So again, if I showcase, where is it? This one. Let me just run this because this one, did I run it properly? So again, how can I show? Actually, let me share my other screen. I will go back to the slides. But again, normally it's based on your writing. So if you've now missed a keyword or it's not indented properly, again, I'll put this on the screen for you so you can, oops, where was it? But I need to look at your code in more detail just to double check what's happening. Again, but if I reiterate over error checking going forward, again, if you have anything that says invalid syntax, for example, these are just common areas where you just may be missing something. So if you recall back to this part when we were talking about types and errors, so these occur when violation of Python rules are being displayed. So if you now miss out the curly bracket or what's needed for that to be a proper syntax, then fantastic. But again, please ping me after the session. I am on the website of social channels. It's within the invite, the event invite itself. So if you go to Hack That Stack on Instagram or even Tech432, we'll definitely be able to answer more of your queries or questions going forward. Again, I'll send, if you message on Instagram, I can give you the code as well so you can test it yourself. So if you see on screen, let me just do this again. If I run it, it's a very simple piece of code. All that's happening is gonna, like I said, give you an input. It says enter your product name. So again, for example, I'm just gonna type in mouse. As I enter in mouse, it's gonna ask me, okay, cool, add in another product, or do you want to finish and just type in done? So you know what? I'm gonna put in mouse again. Actually, I'm gonna put laptop just to give a run through. And I'm gonna say, okay, now I've added all I want to my cart, press done. Do I want to add a discount code? No, don't want to do anything. So I just continue. And as you can see here, it will then add in the items into your cart, which is your list. And then from that part, there we go. Yep, it'll give you the grand total. And just using another thing, like I said, Pandas, which is another area which is into more data analytics and data science and AI approaches you can use it for. We've created a frame, a data frame, which is this here going forward. And that data frame is pretty much, like I said, like a spreadsheet or Excel spreadsheet, think of it in that way. And then from that point, we've outputted that data. And then now we just group the data based on product and count, how much they are, how many they are going forward. And we're just saying the total based on this analysis, this quick analysis, we've stated that the total amount of items there are 2 going forward based on the count there. So because we've grouped the data and we've grouped it based on the count, and now we've done an analysis based on results and saying, okay, how many are within the cart itself? There are 2. And then obviously we've done a quick analysis on discounts. There is no discount being applied, and the final discount total for that. And that's just using pandas. But again, if you want more details, please ping us on. Actually, do we have a link? It's in day. Let me just post it in chat. It'll be easier. But again, more details, please just ping us on Instagram, and we'll be more than happy to help you going forward. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for the time. Sorry for the overrunning going forward. And if there's no more questions, have a lovely evening going forward. Thank you.